Okay, this video is going to pick up from the ending of the last video where you created an instance of Lego char, which is our character movie click symbol class, so a class file that we created. We're going to move this more into an interface scenario where there'll be a button that you click to submit your customization, and these will then be affected onto a new instance of that class in the game itself. So we'll need to create a new scene. Currently we've only got scene 1, and we will also need to create a button and change the way that the code works ever so slightly by adding new listeners. So currently we have got an instance here which is being created by this code here. And we're going to create a new scene. We can find scene in window, and there it is, scene. We can then use the new scene button to add a scene. For instance, we might call the first scene interface. We might call the second scene game. Now currently there will be nothing in the game scene, and also as a consequence of creating a new scene we will also need to put a stop in the first scene, otherwise we will get, so if we just put stop brackets semicolon, if I just test that now, and stop in the interface. Next we will create a button in the interface scene. So I'll just hide the actions for a second. And on the timeline on layer 1 I'll add a button. Make it more complicated. At a later point add text, add effects. We'll create a rectangle, double click to select both the outline and the fill. Right click convert. Okay, and properties will need to give it an instance name, so I'll just call it submit underscore btn. I did actually create button rather than a movie clip for this one. Okay, so now I'll go back into the actions for this scene. I'll then need to create a function which can be called start again. This would normally be found in your main action script file, but for now we'll just do it in the timeline. And inside of that, what it will do is it will send us to the second scene, or the game scene as it's called, using go to and stop. And so in brackets we put the frame. There's only one frame in that scene so far, so we put frame 1, and then the scene name, which goes in between speech marks, game. I then need to add an event listener for that function, so it needs to also make sure that it's listening for a mouse event, because it will be called by a mouse event, and therefore it needs to be self-aware of that fact. I'll add an event listener to submit underscore btn, add event listener, and then the brackets for that, it's listening for a mouse event, dot click, and it will open the function start again. So if we just test that now, we should be able to go to a blank screen. And it sends us to a blank-ish screen. The reason we've got palette there and the instance of the class is because they were created at runtime, so therefore they will exist unless we tell them not to. So I'm just going to take this code here, which creates a new instance, adds it to the display list, and then positions it where we can see it. I'm just going to cut that out, go to the game scene, put that in the first frame. So I'm testing now, that should disappear. There we go, so it doesn't exist in the first scene. And if I click on this button, we have an instance of that created to the settings that we've already defined. And the next thing we would need to do is then edit our main interface. So what we're going to need to do is add some variables to the main class file, which will store the settings for our new instance of the character when we create them. So we use the keyword private, and it means it's a private this the scope of this class file, which is to the scope of the movie itself essentially. And we have got some variables: current hair, we've got leg colour, waist colour, body colour, arm colour, and hair choice. And these are the key ones here, which allow us to then send, on submission of that button, the information that we would like to send. So when we've created the function drop swatch, we've been sending colour information to an instance on the stage, in this case underscore man, and to the different body parts that we want to change the colour by way of a variable called myCT, which stands for my colour transform. What we can actually do is, at the same time, we can set the variables leg col, waist col, for instance, at that point, to equal the colours that have been set, body colour, arm colour. So whenever we set a colour, we reset those variables. So initially, unless we give a value, they will not have a value. So the result will be that a basic colour would carry through. They would have no colour, so therefore they would all be black to start off with, unless of course a selection has been made. We can counter that at a later point if need be. So in the drop swatch, that's where we've set those variables, and in our new actions on the game there, in the game scene, we can change these values to be specific values. So in this instance, if I just delete all of those values and restart this, I should get some code hinting. So we're looking for body colour, and I know that in the main action script file that is called body col as such. So body col, arm col, assuming it's the same col, and leg col. I'll just double check that those are the names we've used. Yeah, body col, arm col, leg col, and we also need a hair choice. Okay, so we'll just test that now and see what we've got. Okay, so if I click the button and see what we get, we decide we get completely black instance at this point in time. I'll restart that to resize. Okay. So sort of pink. As we can see, we've got a bit of an error. Something we need to clear up first. relating to the use of the class and the fact that it doesn't like having an instance of the class on the screen without it being declared through script. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a duplicate of this movie clip, one called copy and one called complete. The one called complete is the one that's on the stage, so what I'm going to do is create the class from the duplicate. This should stop the conflict that we're facing, so that when we test the movie now, click drag a swatch, change the colour there, and change the colour there, put some hair on, and now if we click the button, like magic, we have now got our first instance generated with custom properties, and that's the end of this video. We'll start moving on to keyboard control and animation in the next